They say heartbreak comes slowly, that it creeps in through the cracks. But mine arrived all at once. It was a Tuesday, a cold, gray Kentucky afternoon. I remember the way the clouds hung low, like they were too tired to keep going. Just like me. That was the day I found the bank statement. The day I realized Aiden had been lying to me for a lot longer than I dared to imagine. You ever felt like your whole world changed in the time it takes to blink? That's what it felt like. I opened the envelope. And just like that, the truth was louder than any apology he could ever make. $12,000 gone. Casino. Withdrawals. Online bets. Aiden hadn't just gambled our money. He'd gambled our trust, our future, our home. And the worst part? He looked me in the eyes and said it wasn't a big deal. It's just money, Ev. Just money. No, it was our children's college savings. It was the roof over our heads. It was every promise he ever made to me, burned at the altar of his addiction. But this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's not just about a man who lost himself at a poker table. It's about what happens when love becomes second place. You see, we weren't always like this. We had good years. Laughter. In the kitchen, slow dances after dinner, those quiet moments that made life feel full. But somewhere along the line, maybe when the job got hard, or when the nights felt too long, he started slipping away. And I kept making excuses. God, I made so many excuses. He's just stressed. He'll come back to me. He loves me, doesn't he? But love, real love, it doesn't leave you wondering. It doesn't empty your savings while you're folding laundry and praying the bills don't bounce. I remember the night I confronted him. The kids were asleep. The house smelled like leftover spaghetti and despair. He didn't even flinch, didn't cry, didn't fight for me. He just shrugged and said, I needed to feel something, Evelyn. I needed the rush. So I guess the rush was worth more than me. More than our children. More than 17 years of marriage. That was the night something inside me broke. But maybe it also started to heal. Because here's what they don't tell you about losing someone who's still alive. It's not the loud moments that shatter you. It's the quiet. The stillness after the storm. The way you look at the pillow next to you and realize you've been alone for a long time. You just didn't want to see it. But I see it now. Clear as Kentucky sky after the rain. And I'm done pretending. You know, people always ask why women stay. Why we hold on. Why we don't run the minute we see the first red flag. But the truth is, you don't see red flags when you're wearing rose-colored glasses. And I wore mine for years. Aiden wasn't always a gambler. He used to be the guy who left little notes in my purse. You're stronger than you know. Can't wait to see you tonight. Simple things, but they meant everything back then. We met in Louisville in the fall. I was 24. He made me laugh so hard I spilled hot cider on my jeans. He offered me his jacket, even though it was freezing. I thought he was brave. I thought he was kind. And in some ways, he still was. That's what made it so hard. He didn't turn into a monster overnight. He just faded. Little by little. After we had the kids, Hannah and Levi, he started working more. Long hours, late nights. And when he did come home, he was distant. I thought maybe it was stress. The mortgage, the responsibilities. I thought if I just tried harder, he'd come back to me. So I cooked his favorite meals. I wore the perfume he loved. I even laughed at his tired jokes just to remind him. We still had something worth holding on to. But nothing I did was ever enough. Because he wasn't chasing love anymore. He was chasing escape. I remember one night, about a year before the divorce. He came home smelling like smoke and cheap whiskey. Not the kind of smoke you get from grilling out back. The kind that clings to you after you've sat in a casino all night. I asked him, quietly, "Where were you, Aiden?" He didn't even look up. "Out," he said. And that was the beginning of the end. Not the money. Not the lies. Not even the cheating rumors that came later. It was the way he stopped seeing me. The way I could be right there in front of him. And he looked right through me. That kind of loneliness. It changes a woman. The first time I left, it wasn't forever. I just needed a weekend away. To breathe. To remember who I was before I became the woman begging for scraps of affection. I took the kids and drove to my sister's house in Bowling Green. She didn't ask questions. She just hugged me, held me while I cried into her shoulder and whispered, "I don't know how to fix this." You ever felt like you're screaming underwater? That's what my marriage felt like. I stayed the weekend. Aiden didn't call. Not once. When we got back, he acted like nothing happened. "Hey, babe. Dinner in the oven," he said, like we hadn't been gone 3 days. Like our absence didn't even register. That was the moment I knew. Not suspected. Not feared. Knew. I was alone in this marriage. So I started keeping records. Receipts, screenshots, bank statements. I opened a separate account in my name. Started saving what I could. A few dollars here and there. Cash back from groceries. Birthday money from my parents. Anything. I was building an exit plan. In silence. Because sometimes silence is safer than confrontation. Then came the night of the final blow. It was 2 weeks before Christmas. The kids were decorating cookies, laughing in the other room. I went into Aiden's coat pocket to grab his keys and found a folded slip of paper. A betting slip. From a racetrack 2 counties over. The date? The same day he told me he was working late. I confronted him right there in the kitchen. He looked at me, and for the first time in years, I saw a flicker of guilt in his eyes. But he didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He just said, "It's my money, Evelyn. You don't control me." That's when I knew this wasn't about money. This was about power. About control. About the lie we'd both been living for too damn long. So I packed a bag. Just one. Grabbed the kids. And I left. This time, for good. Leaving wasn't the hardest part. Staying gone was. At first, it felt like freedom. Like I could finally breathe without walking on eggshells. The kids laughed more. I slept through the night. But then came the silence. The guilt. The late-night doubts that whisper things you swore you'd never believe again. What if he changes? What if the kids need their father? What if I was wrong? But I wasn't wrong. I was just human. We moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment near my work. I got a job as a receptionist at a dentist's office. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. And every morning, I reminded myself, this isn't the life I planned, but it's the life I chose, and it's mine. Hannah missed her dad the most. She asked about him every night. Levi barely spoke for weeks, just stared out the window with that hollow look boys get when they don't know how to cry. But slowly, we healed. We made pancakes on Sundays. We built forts in the living room. We found laughter again, even if it came in small pieces. And then, out of nowhere, Aiden showed up at the apartment, 6 months sober. So he said. He looked thinner, eyes darker. But he wore that same crooked smile that used to make my heart flutter. "I'm in therapy," he told me. "I've joined a support group. I want to be better, for the kids, For you. For a moment, a small, stupid moment, I almost believed him. I invited him in, let him talk. Listened as he spun a new version of himself, one where he was the hero this time. But then I saw it. That twitch in his hand, the glance at his phone, the way he talked more about what he'd lost than what he'd learned. And I knew. This wasn't healing. This was a performance. A last-ditch effort to win back control. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I simply stood up, walked over to the door and opened it. You can be in their lives, I said, calm but firm. But not like this. Not until you're really ready. He didn't argue, just nodded and walked out. That was the last time I saw him. Not because he disappeared. No, because a month later, I got a letter. Not from him, from his lawyer. Aiden had relapsed, lost his job, and was checking into rehab after a near overdose in a motel just outside Nashville. He left me custody of the kids. Full rights, no contest. Attached was a handwritten note. His handwriting shaky, like the letters were apologizing for existing. It read, "You were always stronger than me, Evelyn. I gambled with everything that mattered, and I lost. I hope the kids grow up to be more like you, and less like me." I sat with that letter for hours, read it again and again, trying to feel something. Anger, sadness, pity. But all I felt was peace. Not because he was gone, not because I won, but because I finally understood. Some people love you the best way they know how, even if it's not enough. And some goodbyes, they don't need closure. They just need courage. So I folded the letter, tucked it in the back of my closet. And that night, I curled up in bed with Hannah on one side and Levi on the other. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. Because I had built a new life. Brick by brick, scar by scar. And even though it wasn't perfect, it was real. And it was mine. It's been 3 years. Sometimes I still catch myself glancing at the front door, wondering if Aiden might show up again. Not because I want him to, but because grief has a funny way of echoing long after the pain is gone. The kids are older now, stronger. Levi smiles more. Hannah writes poetry. She gave me one the other day. It ended with the line, "My mother is made of storms, but she still stands." And that's what I want you to know. This story wasn't about a man who failed me. It was about a woman who finally stopped failing herself. I don't hate him anymore. I just don't miss him either, and that is a kind of freedom I never knew existed. And if this story moved you, or even made you think, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone. And this story is a work of fiction. All characters, names, and situations are entirely made up and are not based on real individuals. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental.